Welcome back, everyone. We're jumping straight in today because we are unpacking literally one of the most famous ideas in human history. Seriously, it's a massive one. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get right to our explainer. I think, therefore I am, unpacking the cogito. Let's go.
Section 1. The most famous phrase. Okay, let's dive into this.
Cogito, ergo sum. Just let those heavy Latin words sit for a second. You know it, right? Translated into English, it is the incredibly iconic, totally groundbreaking phrase, I think, therefore I am. It's so short, super punchy, but man, it basically carries the entire weight of modern philosophy right on its shoulders.
But, the philosopher and mathematician René Descartes didn't just snap his fingers and magically arrive at this exact Latin phrasing overnight. No way. It was actually a really fascinating evolution. See, he first used a French formula of the concept way back in his 1637 work, Discourse on the Method. Then, 4 years later in 1641, in his Meditations on First Philosophy, he used a slightly different variation, ego sum, ego existo. And it actually wasn't until his Principles of Philosophy in 1644 that he returned to a wording closer to his original 1637 idea, giving us the final ego cogito ergo sum. So he was actively tweaking and refining this legendary idea over 7 whole years.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the direct contrast between his middle step and his final destination. It's kind of striking. In 1641, he wrote, I am, I exist. Which, yeah, it's powerful, sure, but it completely lacks the active mechanism of why he knows he exists. The 1644 formulation beautifully bridges that gap. I think, therefore I am. The thinking itself, the very act of it, is the undeniable proof of the existing.
Section 2. The methodical doubt. So what brought on this massive philosophical crisis?
How did Descartes even find himself needing to prove that he existed in the first place? Imagine, just for a moment, that you strip away literally everything you think you know. What happens if we doubt everything? What if your very senses are just lying to you? What if the sky isn't actually blue, or, what if the ground beneath you isn't even solid? If you actively apply doubt to absolutely every single belief you hold, what is actually left?
Now, this wasn't just some mindless skepticism. It was a highly structured thought experiment. Descartes was treating human knowledge like a building. Step 1. Apply methodical doubt to all beliefs, essentially taking a wrecking ball to the shaky house of assumptions. Step 2. Find an absolutely secure, unquestionable foundation in the rubble. He was desperately searching for an unbreakable bedrock. Why? Well, so he could execute Step 3. Rebuild knowledge from the ground up. He needed a starting point that could withstand any doubt thrown at it, no matter how extreme.
And right in the middle of that total, complete doubt, bam! A brilliant spark of intuition hit him. He realized that the very act of doubting, the very act of wondering if anything was real, was in itself a thought. And hey, if there's a thought, there simply must be a thinker. Therefore, only his existence as a thinking thing could be known with absolute certainty at the very outset.
Section 3. The first certainty. Finding that unbreakable bedrock.
So, the crucial point is that this discovery is completely misunderstood if you look at it as some cold, calculating math problem. It is not merely a logical deduction. It isn't some step-by-step equation where A plus B equals C. Rather, what it is an immediate intuition. It's a sudden, profound, and instantaneous spark of self-awareness. You think, and in that exact same millisecond, you immediately intuit your own existence.
Regardless of its different formulations over those 7 years we talked about, this single, resilient certainty became the absolute core of his work. The cogito is the central element of Cartesian philosophy. It's like the ultimate, solid, immovable block from which Descartes attempts to reconstruct all knowledge. He proved that even when literally everything else is cast into doubt, the thinking self survives.
Section 4. Beyond Descartes. Let's move to and see how this builds, because this concept completely outgrew its creator.
An idea this powerful simply couldn't be contained to just one man's philosophical writings. In philosophical vocabulary, the academic world beautifully turned Descartes' active realization into a permanent noun. Today, scholars simply speak of the cogito, which refers generally to the intuition a subject gains through self-awareness. It became a standalone term for a fundamental philosophical discovery. How cool is that?
And this brilliantly illustrates how this concept spans across the entire landscape of history, proving it's definitely not tied exclusively to Descartes. Scholars discuss an Augustinian cogito existing way before Descartes even wrote his works. Then, of course, there's the famous Cartesian cogito of Descartes himself. And moving forward in time, there's even a Husserlian cogito that comes after him. The realization of the self through thought is a massive, timeline-spanning revelation.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and I really want to leave you with a thought to chew on. If Descartes is right, and the unquestionable foundation of all knowledge is your very own self-awareness, what else can you be absolutely certain of right now? Look around you. Test your certainties. Keep thinking, keep existing, and keep exploring your reality. Catch you next time.